Oh, hello again, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of the Inworld review. Let's have a quickie look here at the old calendar, and I see it's the 11th of August, so we're the second show of August now. And of course, as normal, if you're watching us live, we're being broadcast as a segment of the Metaverse Week in Review. And if you have been watching us live, we showed you a couple of sort of entry clips, a little interesting little real life clips, as it were, of JJ Zimbabwe of the University of Western Australia, giving what is called a 3-minute or was it 2-minute thesis. Apparently, he and some of his colleagues have been tasked with sort of just standing up behind a podium with one slide and delivering a sort of thesis in 2 minutes. So we showed his contribution because it was all about virtual worlds. And, of course, that follows on from last week's announcements of the winners of their Machinima and 3D Art contest, which was very exciting indeed at the time. We showed you a very short clip featuring Moses, which is the US Army's virtual world platform. It wasn't really long enough to tell you that much, but some proof of concept there, really. And what else did we show you? I've forgotten. Oh, yes, it was a short example of rigged mesh. Now, rigged mesh is not new, but that was actually an avatar skeleton. And I looked very impressive. We did actually show you another version of that, sort of fully textured last week, but I thought it was a joy to see movements like that on a mesh avatar. And I forgot. Oh, yes. And finally, we showed you a piece on virtual student fairs, which are virtual. They are sort of partly virtual world based. It's a sort of commercial operation, really, where they, I think it's really for students who are job hunting prior to being students, so to speak, and they come online into a virtual environment to meet prospective employers and things like that. So all very interesting stuff. Now, given our name, well, the name of our host show is Metaverse Week in Review, you probably know that I always start the show by a little roundup of things happening in the open metaverse, so to speak, as opposed to the walled garden commercial places like Second Life and Inworlds. That actually is wholly appropriate this week because we're going to have, in some ways, a rather open sim focused show for you, but more of that when I introduce our guests after Tara. I'm just having a quick scan here. In fact, actually, this is rather interesting. The American CDC, that's the Center of Disease Control, have just spent a figure of $626,000 on virtual reality. They too are sort of jumping in the act. I gather this is to do with training their operatives and possibly tracing disease outbreaks and things in the eventuality of diseases outbreaking and need to be controlled, which is what the CDC do, of course. What else? There's a report on, there was a report on virtual worlds and distance learning, but both the two case studies both came from a rather old platform now called Active Worlds. They've been looking at distance learning with Active Worlds, and right, we all know about Oculus Rift, and I gather Tara will be telling us about something rather similar in her bit in a second. Right. There's also a piece from London here, really, about simulations for UK-wide vocational education and training. But I only have short links available, so I will leave this to later if I've got the links up. Okay, now as I say, we're going to be focusing on OpenSim to a certain extent today because coming up at the beginning of September is the OpenSim Community Conference, or Community and Developers Conference, I think is the full title, and we have some guests in the studio who are going to be talking about that and indeed related things, I hope, because we won't just talk about that alone. But before we do that, I'm going to hand over to Tara as usual for her quick update on news of the week, etc. So over to you, Tara.
Thank you, Mal. And just to give everybody a fair warning, there's a certain amount of construction activity going on in my neighbor's backyard, and so if you hear a rude noise, it is probably somebody's skill saw. I've been hearing little blasts, so be warned. Anyway, greetings from the Pacific Northwest, where it is overcast today, but the sun is going to break through here before long. Let's see. Well, obviously, we're going to talk a lot about the Open Sim Community Conference coming up, but before that, a few other items. First off, those of you who know me and know the show I often have things to say about kitty cats, of which I am a sometimes breeder, and we have a megapus who's taken up residence on the stage, and I brought him over a girlfriend so that they can have a kitty here over the next few days because he's ready. Anyway, there's been a kitty cats update this week, and whenever they do kitty cats update, they release wonderful new features that the kitty cats will do. And among the new features released this week is the fact that now you can have your kitty cats in multiples follow you around. And this isn't your standard, attached critter that, kind of moves in lockstep with you. These guys wander, and they don't follow you in sync like dogs. They follow you like cats will sometimes follow you. And it's totally cute and really well done. I have to give them extra points for this. And there are a bunch of other new features too, but that's the one that I've checked out that I'm particularly fond of. There's some new animations that owners can do. You can now lie on your back and hold your kitty cat up over yourself and play with it, as well as some of the other playing things you can do with them. So Kitty Cats continues to add new and wonderful things to their range of features. Now, last week, those of you who saw this last week's show know that we had a little visit from the Flat Rodvik, and Flat Rodvik morphed during the show, and we gave him some hats. Well, this week's attempt at another Second Life meme is the Second SL bucket list. Now, I'm not certain that this has actually gotten much traction yet, and this actually may be the person who launched it, whose post I ran across, but it was fashionista blogger Sash Arabello, who provided a list of 5 Second Life bucket list items, which I thought was worth sharing. And these are hers as a starter set. So you might want to sit down if you're doing bucket lists, and if you want to do a Second Life bucket list, add your contribution in the form of a blog post somewhere. Anyway, hers are, first off, remove all bling, body oil, and clicky heels from the grid. Number 2, this is my favorite of all of them. She wants to make a script to pop huge prim boobies. And yes, I like that one a lot. Number 3 is I want a Harry Potter adult sim. Number 4, I want a prefab store. And number 5, stay away from drama. And good luck on number 5, because we know drama follows you everywhere around the grid, and it's sometimes, if you get involved at some time or another, you're going to find yourself involved in drama. Anyway, if you want to check out her blog, it's slshopaholic.rambles.blogspot.ca. So she's a Canadian. An interesting article in Metaverse News, which covers the wider metaverse. An article about kind of one of the things that has been on the radar around the metaverse for as long as I have been is this dream of people being able to use the metaverse to work at home or to work remotely. And an interesting item this week was this article talking about the differences, and specifically noticing that we've got 2 kinds of tasks that are typical in the workplace. ones that involve sharing and processing experiences, and ones involving processing and sharing information. And virtual environments are great for the first one, for sharing and processing experiences. Not so good when it's coming to processing or sharing information. And that this gap is really, kind of pretty significant when it comes to the amount of traction that virtual environments have or have not gotten in the workplace. I certainly see it every day in my workplace where, it's a small enough operation that it would seem like it would be an ideal situation to make some use of virtual environments, but everything we do is involved in sharing information, and so phone conferencing and the occasional screen sharing covers the bases really well. And why add the complexity and the added bandwidth of a virtual environment when there's no real gain other than that immersiveness factor, and that's just not a strong enough selling point. Anyway, yes, this is Maria Korolov's article from her scan. But this led into her talking about a device, another, we kind of get into some of this hardware stuff that slipped under her radar, and certainly slipped under ours as well, I think, probably because it's really augmented reality rather than virtual reality, but it probably has more potential for some crossover than anything she's seen. And I think it's pretty impressive. It's called the Meta. It went through a Kickstarter successfully in June, ending in June. It's the product of it's a venture spun out of Columbia University, and there's been 2 years of research and development. And the first developer kits are now actually, I think they're hitting the street, and you can still get one. You can still order one, but you're not part of the Kickstarter campaign. And the particulars on this that are pretty impressive is, first off, it's small and lightweight. It's more like Google Glass, but it's adding hand gestures, and it adds the ability to have basically to have a display right in front of you. So it eliminates the need for a computer screen. You can use any blank wall. And in fact, you probably don't really need to have a blank wall. You could use, a window or any number of things. And it's being designed so it's untethered, i.e. it's wireless, so you can wander around and use it. And apparently it is including being able to use your hands. So one of the things that's included is the ability to do virtual modeling. So in other words, it's like, you can use your hands to virtually model something right in front of your face, which is, which sounds just totally cool to me. It's kind of like, okay, you want to do mesh? Well, hey, get these, these glasses will enable you to do it with your hands kind of right in the air in front of you and see what you're doing. What a concept. But I think it really raises some interesting questions about, that augmented reality versus virtual reality of, say, for example, the Oculus Rift and all the buzz, all the excessive buzz, I think, that is currently generating, and is worth taking a look at. It's called Meta. The website where you can actually see the thing and some video clips is meta-view.com. So there's that for you. And beyond that, there's a bunch of events coming up in addition to the one we're going to spend some time talking about, so it's on your radar. Digital Kids Summit and Digital Kids EDU is September 18th and 19th in San Francisco. The group that does this is a spin-off. This is a spin-off event or morph from the folks that were doing it. Did one of the early, highly commercial virtual worlds conferences several years ago, and there was a point at which they kind of shifted over into games and some other things, and the virtual kids piece of it has been, or the digital kids piece of it has been the piece that they've apparently gotten some fairly good traction with. And that's if you go to digitalkidssummit.com, you'll find the details on that. In advance, early bird registration is through August 16th, so you have a few more days for that. Coming up more sooner than that is one that's actually almost in my backyard, the Serious Play Conference. which is looking at that interesting overlap between games and serious functions. That has certainly been a subject of many things we've talked about and covered, is August 19th to 22nd in Redmond, Washington, in Microsoft, not at Microsoft, but in that part of the digital forest in the Pacific Northwest, and particularly has, let's see, workforce development programs and corporations, healthcare, government, can get a good understanding of how serious games can be successfully applied to professional and executive leadership, skill development, and required training programs. And Paulette Robinson, who's been very big in the U.S. government related virtual worlds events, and that whole activity is one of the featured speakers. Looks like a good conference. Let's see, I think there was one other. Oh, and then shifting over into Inworld stuff, coming up, we have August 24th to 31st is Bay City is having its second annual event, Hot Bay City Nights, at the Bay City Fairgrounds, and it's celebrating it with a mid-20th century theme, using lots of vintage vehicles, showcasing vehicles from the era of 1940 to 1965. So if you're into old cars, here's your virtual opportunity to indulge. And on that note, I think I'll kick it back to Mal.
Well, thank you, Sarah. And we will probably have a little bit more Second Life-based and Inworld-based news a little later. We will probably be joined, as usual, by Saffia Widdershins later. She's actually gone to the ballet. So she did say she might arrive a little bit late. So we're going to leave the sort of in-world stuff to near the end of the show this week as opposed to the opening bit. So meanwhile, we have some exciting guests here for you. I think I'll introduce them in turn. Somebody will be very familiar to regular viewers. I have Will Burns. Hi, Will. Well, we do have Will. But
if he unmutes himself,
it could be something like that, or he may be wondering. We'll come back to Will. Will, of course, is. Did we ever need a sound check? Says Bet. Never mind. His little white thing is on, so I think his voice is fine when he comes back. Okay. Moving on. Sitting right beside me here is great to have a real old friend of the channel here back. It's Fleep Tuque. Hi, Fleep.
Hello, Mal. How are you?
Absolutely fine. How are you?
Doing well. Glad to be here. Thanks.
And a very busy bunny at the moment, I imagine. Now, Fleep, well, I never know where to start with Fleep. You notice this show is coming live from Chilbo in Second Life, as it always does. Well, Fleep is one of the founders of the Chilbo Sim here, the community building project. So that's a major thing. But she's also an educator, works with University of Cincinnati, isn't it, Fleep? And,
yep, that's correct.
Yeah. And some years ago, she formed, along with Joyce Betancourt, I guess, who was expected but hasn't showed today, a company called Avacon, who, for 1 year at least, you actually took over the Second Life Community Conference, didn't you?
We actually did that for a few years, yep.
You did do it for a few, yeah. But yes, but well, we'll no doubt talk about that later because such things require the cooperation of Linden Labs, of course. However, Avacon is still going, and we'll happily get some news on some possible real-life convention, I don't know, in the future. But this year, Avacon were going to hold a virtual conference. And in fact, what's happened now is they've sort of gotten together with simulator.org and others to have a sort of vast open simulator community and developers conference. I think is the best way to describe it. So we're also joined by Micheal Emory. That's the easiest. His avatar name is Netadon Tazami, so I think I'm going to stick with Micheal because I'm going to get myself in a twist with that. Welcome, Micheal.
Hello.
And you, of course, Micheal, represent opensimulator.org, if I've got this correct, as well as involved with some other things we'll come to. I think the best thing is to start with Fleep, because I know Fleep has a head on tuned into everything here. Maybe you'd like to start off, Fleep, by telling us the brief history of Avacon, how you got to be involved with Open Simulator.org and this actual new conference that's coming up, which we have been over there, by the way, and taken some film, which we don't have this week, but it's a massive sort of build, really, isn't it? So tell us, Fleep, tell us. More.
Sure. Well, I think probably your viewers, those of the viewers who have been around for a while, know that. So Avacon started when a group of us who volunteered at the Real Life Second Life Community Convention for many years. The folks who used to organize that conference sort of got burned out, and they were going to drop it. And so we formed a nonprofit organization called Avacon, which of course stands for Avatar Convention, which we may call it someday. I don't know, but that's where Avacon comes from. And we took over the organization of SLCC. Then we did that for a couple of years, and then there were a lot of management changes at Linden Lab. And with one thing and another, we ended up deciding that organizing the Second Life Community Convention was something that we couldn't do anymore. So we took a year or so off to recuperate and started looking around, because I think the really interesting thing. Sorry, I'm yelling at my dog. The really interesting thing is that, of course, Second Life is still wonderful, but there's a huge, diverse community of folks out there using Open Simulator. And because it doesn't have the same single grid as Second Life, we sort of felt like there's all kinds of innovations happening with OpenSim that people don't know about because it isn't all in one world. And though the hypergrid is fantastic, some people are sort of new to hypergridding. And so I approached originally Justin Clark Casey, who's the president of the Overt Foundation, which Michael's a member of that board. And some people don't know, Open Simulator is an open source project, and Overt is the foundation that takes all of those code contributions and makes sure that the licensing is okay, and et cetera. So, I sent him a little email and was like, hey, there are a lot more people using OpenSim. We think it might be maybe the time is right now to sort of bring together the developers and the user community and have a conversation. And we talked more, and we started. When did we start meeting, Neb? I can't remember. Was that in January?
Yeah, it was sometime around there where I think we initially started talking about it. But it was pretty late at that point. It was probably wasn't until about 4 or 5 months ago we really started heavily discussing it.
Yeah. So, I think the concept here is that it's an open source project, which means that, there's no one big developer team. Anyone who wants to contribute an improvement can do so. And I think most of the core developers talk with each other and know each other and have a community. And there are larger grids and smaller grids, and some of those also have communities in their grids. But I think this may be the first time that, people from all the different walks of Open Simulator life are getting together, and I think it's going to be really fun.
Well, one of the things that I think is crucial to this, of course, is the hypergrid itself. I do remember some years ago, we did a musical tour of the metaverse, Rocking the Metaverse. That was what it was called, I think. And we kept trying all these different platforms. But in those days, before Krista really came up with the hypergrid, it was a matter of logging in and into individual grids or worlds, remembering 1,000 different passwords and avatar names, etc. And what has happened recently is the hypergrid has sort of come into its own. Now, it was you actually who tipped me off about a week ago about the I tend to use Imprudence Viewer, but I'm now downloaded the Singularity Viewer, and I've opted for the alpha version, which seems to be virtually daily, that you told me about. And performance-wise, it's had such an impact. I mean, the hypergrid is just now, as long as you've got a landmark, the hypergrid actually just seems to work like a straightforward teleport does in Second Life. So the advantage you have now, of course, is that you can put on an event like this, and people from many different OpenSim platforms, different worlds, grids, call them what you like, can all just hop over there at, most 2 clicks, but in most cases, I suspect just 1 click, sort of hypergrid in. And you've actually created a sort of, I won't call it a micro grid. There's quite a lot of sims on it, but you've actually created a grid, haven't you, especially for this conference that people will be able to hypergrid into.
Yeah, that's one of the things, early on we were talking, should we hold this on an existing grid? And then we thought, because one of the things it's really hilarious actually, when Avicon organized the Second Life Community Convention, people frequently thought we were Linden Lab. And so if they were cranky about something with Linden Lab, they'd be like, you people. And we would say, we're not Linden Lab. The Second Life Community Convention is an independent event organized by, fans and volunteers. And similarly, with OpenSim, people are under the impression that we're OS Grid because that's one of the largest open grids, and no, that's not the case. The Open Simulator Community Conference is being organized by people that are, we may have affiliations with other grids, but this is a completely independent of any other grid event. And so Micheal, thank goodness, with all of his expertise, is actually the guy doing the work making the grid. And we've got, I don't even know how many regions there are now, but one of the really great things about it is that through the testing process of setting up this grid and having all the core developers participate in the planning and part of the conversations and load testing every week, they have made enormous, I really can't tell you, I've been running my own grid, Fleep Grid, for a few years now. And just in the last 6 months, I'm telling you the number of improvements, I think Krista said something like 900 plus code commits. They have made so many improvements, and I really think people can attend either when they register for the conference. So I guess that's one important thing I definitely want to tell your viewers. The website's conference.opensimulator.org, and you do need to register to attend. And we're going to be able to accommodate either local accounts or hypergrid visitors. So people from all over the metaverse can register with their hypergrid account, and then they'll be able to just teleport right in. And again, that address was conference.opensimulator.org. And many of the improvements that Krista's been making to the hypergrid and all of the changes that they're making, and I'm sure Neb can talk more about this, Micheal, all of the improvements that they're making to the Open Simulator code for the conference grid is all going to be available to everyone in the next release, which means that all of these things that they've done to improve performance and lag and new features, the new release is going to have groups and all this stuff built right in. Lots of nice management tools. So I think it's going to be not only is the conference going to be great, I think Open Simulator, the software itself, is going to be much, much improved as a result of the conference.
I should ask at this point, I did go to a site, and I think, was it Eventbrite or something, where you were taking registrations other than conferenceopensim.org?
Yeah, if people go to conference.opensimulator.org, they can click the link to register and it'll take them to the Eventbrite site. Now, right now, obviously, we wish we could accommodate everybody who wants to come in world, but for performance reasons, we don't think that's going to be possible. So anyone who doesn't get an in-world ticket will be registered for a streaming ticket, and our plan is to stream all of the sessions if we get enough volunteers. So we still need volunteers to help. So if you're interested in volunteering, you can do that on our website as well. But the goal is, if we get enough volunteers, that we'll be streaming all of the sessions out to the web as well. So if you happen to not get an in-world ticket, you can still view all the conference proceedings, and hopefully we'll archive them all so you can watch them later if you have to miss a session too.
Oh, great. I think we may help with that. Yeah, okay, that's fine then. I did wonder because I went to the I guess it was the Eventbrite site I got through to, and it said 200 seats, all gone, sold out. And they asked me to put in a promo code, and I didn't have a promo code. And I thought, well, if we're going to come in and film, how do we do it if we can't get in?
We had a little glitch there. There for a few days, it looked like the whole thing was sold out, but it's not. You can still register. I had to fix that.
Oh, okay, right.
Technical difficulties, minor issue.
Well, I better go back and actually put my name down, hadn't I? If I'm now able to do so. Okay, let's move over to you, Michael. Actually, now Fleep mentioned I was in there. Well, I've been helping with the load testing on a few occasions too. So it's actually been great to see Krista Lopez and everybody in there sort of practicing too.
Yeah.
I hope she'd get here today, but unfortunately not. Yeah, there are. Fleep says she can't remember how many sims there are. My guess, it looked like it could be getting on for 20. There's the four
I
sim.
think it's 22 or 23 regions.
Yeah.
Currently.
You've effectively got you've got this four sim complex in the middle of the area. Then they're separated. They're not sort of mainland like they're separated from various island blocks that are surrounding the main four sim complex. And let's see, you have breakout areas, you have an exhibition area. I know a lot of them aren't built yet, but the ones that are built, they're all getting on to build. That we saw, I went in with our wonderful camera woman, Pet Love, and looked around yesterday for some filming, and lovely stuff. I mean, there's a lot of work just gone into the builds, let alone anything else. So I guess you're behind all this, are you?
Actually, part of the builds, some of it I've been helping out. Fleep's been doing a lot of the management. We have a group of students that are volunteering to do a lot of the building work for us on the grid, and she's been kind of managing that group. And she can probably tell you a little bit more about those people. I've been helping out with doing a little bit of the cleanup and stuff. Mostly my job has been all on the back end, setting up the software, setting up the databases, doing testing, holding these weekly, sometimes bi-weekly load tests that you've been attending that have been just really good outcome from those. Like Fleep said, we've been seeing all kinds of bug fixes. Just about 1,000 patches have gone into the software just from our testing alone. So that's kind of what I do. Is my job is kind of work with the developers, find bugs, report the bugs, deal with some of the other users and not core developers, but people who are developing their own grids and regions, and I work with them to try and get issues solved. So that's mostly what I've been doing in that grid. It's just making sure everything runs.
Now, I think actually it was quite fascinating. I was at one of the, it was during last week sometime, one of the load tests, which of course started on the big 4sim sort of complex, where I think you're aiming to get 200 avatars across 4 sims. Yes. But we then teleported over to landing area 1, which I warn anybody going to landing area 1, it's highly psychedelic, which is, when you land, it's got a quality to it that is very unusual indeed. Let's put it that way. But the fascinating thing was there that Fleep rezzed all these sort of pod units for people to sit in, and I think didn't we get something like 100 avatars on one sim and nobody crashed? I won't say it didn't lag. It did lag a bit, but I mean nobody crashed.
It went extremely well. I thought. I think we had something like it was like 95 avatars in one single region, and I think we got up to 117 at one point on our 4 corner region tests. We do have some more tests coming up, and we do hope to get to 200 avatars. We've been discussing some other ways to do that kind of in an artificial manner. But yeah, it would be really good to do that. And anybody who wants to do that, we hold the load tests every week at Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm sure we can maybe put out a link or something like that where people can get to get that information. It may be up on the conference website. I'm not sure. I think
It is, yep. If you click on the login link, we have information about that. And I would say, I always say this, I'm still using Second Life. My university is still using Second Life. But for Second Lifers who haven't checked out Open Simulator in a while, a couple of years ago, I would say that I felt like Open Sim was making lots of progress, but maybe wasn't ready for prime time yet. For some of the project work that I do, and I would say now that has changed very much. So if you checked it out a while ago and haven't looked recently, now is a really good time to put your toes back in the water. And the conference, we are gearing, there are 6 tracks in the conference. Let's see if I can rattle them off quickly. It's arts and creativity, business and enterprise, developers and open source. We have an education track, a research track, and social and communities. So there's lots of different content that will interest a broad audience. And one of the things, certainly for in the developers and open source track, of course, there will be more advanced stuff about running your own OpenSim grid, but we're also going to have some newbie-like content too. So if you're new to OpenSim, or you're making the transition from Second Life to OpenSim, this will be a really great opportunity for you to sort of experiment. If you have tried hypergridding and got confused, things have improved quite a bit, and we can help with that. And these load tests are a really great way to test your hypergridding skills, and just pop in. You can get sort of a preview of the conference builds and meet lots of other people in the OpenSim community. And what you will find is a lot of the OpenSim folks are longtime Second Life users, so you might even meet somebody that you just haven't seen for a while.
I often say, because a popular criticism of OpenSim is there's nobody there. But I'm always saying, well, look, if you add all these simulators together and get to grips with the idea of the hypergrid, they are like one continuous world. And in fact, there are in fact a lot of people there. It's just that they are scattered around. Lots of people operate, I won't say private grids, but small grids that are for, like you say, research or prototyping things. Others, like OS Grid, are much more public facing, a bit similar to Second Life in a way. But the thing is, they are all connected. So although there may not seem to be many people on any one grid, you are just a hypergrid jump. It's just like a teleport now, if you have the landmark, away from, very popular areas. Like Franco Grid is an example to me. The French do like their own places, and, there is a whole grid which is like the French Second Life. And, you can just hop in and out of there at will, and from any other grid, not any other grid, but most other grids, and you can get a little parcel as a home on one of the grids, and then just save your landmarks and jump all over the place from there. And also, it's very interesting. There is actually a sort of currency. I find that there may be more than one that's actually used on OpenSim and probably involve PayPal. But by and large, you can hop around and pick up some wonderful stuff from various grids for free, and just put it in your inventory and take it back to your own grid. There are restrictions. Some content can't cross grids. And there's sometimes limitations, sometimes there aren't. But you can, it is, if you take advantage of the hybrid, sort of like Second Life was a few years ago, and there are plenty of people there and plenty of things to do. I actually found a grid the other day, which is Hogwarts, the Harry Potter thing, and I knew there was one in Second Life, but I didn't realize there's an entire role-play grid on OpenSim. So there's an awful lot to be discovered there. And proof of the pudding, as it were, is the thing I just mentioned. When I went to the landing area 1, I don't know whether you have any special server set up for that grid, but you just couldn't do that in Second Life. You could not have got more than 100 avatars on a single sim and be renting chairs for all of them at the same time. It's not a matter of lag. You would not have done it in Second Life, full stop, So if I want to put on an event, with 100 people, on one sim. I do know that with a bit of care, it might well be possible on OpenSim now, which it certainly isn't in here.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm giving you my thoughts. I want to get some information here. Let me just briefly switch over to Will here, Will Burns. As I said, welcome, Will. You are familiar, aren't you, with a lot of different platforms. You've been Active Worlds and lots of platforms you've mentioned in the past.
Oh, yes.
Are you very familiar with OpenSim? Have you been over there doing hypergridding and stuff?
I've been over there a number of times. I just pick and choose my time because I don't actually have a lot of time anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been over there a number of times, in and out, and bouncing around different things. I can't name them off the top of my head, but I've been through a number of them over the last couple of years, and I just chose to stick around at SL, not because I have any disdain for OpenSim. It's just that I just don't have time to keep up with everything, with all the different things that are being thrown at me. When I was doing paper, I was in Olive, Forterra Olive, and Active Worlds, and Second Life, and OpenSim, and a couple of other places. A whole bunch of places were being thrown at me, and Blue Mars, and when it was up and running in full capacity, so to speak. There.com made a resurgence. I mean, we were just going through so many things, and I couldn't keep up with them all. But that was during a time where I did actually get to tour around and see where the development for different areas of the hypergrid stuff were at the time. So some of them have some good stuff. I'm totally for it, and they serve different needs for different grids. So I'm pretty impressed with the outcome. Though I would like to see the concurrency go up quite dramatically, and I know you guys are pushing on that, but not to sound critical, but 100 simultaneous is impressive in context to like SL kind of technology. But about 1998, the last concert I did in Active Worlds, I had 115 in a single spot. So we're doing pretty good. I mean, you guys are doing great. I mean, considering it's SL and and it's an offshoot of it, and you guys are doing some great work over there. Concurrency has to add another zero to that number before it becomes something that's going to be earth-shattering and really widely adopted. Then you'll start getting a hell of a lot more notice in the mainstream.
Well, I think if I could just pop in and say, one of the things that we're really excited about the conference is we think that, so you may have heard about Intel's distributed scene graph, which I know that Mal mentioned a clip. I think he showed a clip earlier, the Moses work that the Army is doing, and they're working with Intel on the distributed scene graph stuff as well. And sort of what that does is it's, I'm not a really technical, I don't know about the details of the technical, but the way I understand it is, instead of a single region, they sort of parcel off and load balance even within a region. And the goal is to have, I think ultimately their goal is to have thousands of simultaneous users. And I think we're going to have, Intel is going to work with us for the conference, and we're going to actually have a distributed scene graph social area. So we hope to push that limit for the conference as well. That won't be the main conference areas, but we'll have an experimental area that the public, you don't have to have a ticket to come to the distributed scene graph social area, and the expo regions will all be public as well. So I'd like to take that challenge, Will, and invite you to come and check it out. And
I'm very aware of. I'm very well aware of the distributed scene graph. I'm actually on the Moses think tank with Douglas, Maxwell, and M. It's actually a really good idea the way they're doing it. However, a couple of concerns I brought up in the think tank portion of Moses was that it's more of a brute force method, and they're stripping down the amount of data and avatars and brute forcing the rest of it. I think that'll do a short term boost, and it really is a good idea. But at the end of the day, it's really going to be just to sell more servers and more hardware and stuff to do it. I think the brute force method really isn't going to help in the long run for the larger scalability aspect. But in the short term, it's showing it's a great example of what you can do right now, and that's what needs to be pushed more. Not so much as a solution or a long-term solution. It's more of I see it more of like a catalyst to get people to say, oh well, this isn't impossible. We're not overstepping our bounds or reach in technology. We can actually do this now. But yeah, I'm very happy to see this with all that going on there. If they get up to 1,000, I'll be tickled pink, even if it is brute force. And I told I've had a discussion with Douglas and I think Cynthia Cologne. She has some interest in involvement in that too, and I've talked to her in depth and back chat about it, the brute force methodology. Unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that I do know, at this point, I mean, if Douglas had caught me about a year ago, fresh off the research paper, he'd have a better chance of getting some answers out of me. A lot of it I have to dance around at this point. Mal, you brought that up inadvertently a couple of episodes ago when I had written the blog post. I had to take them back down. Oh, yeah, yes. I'd actually overstepped a couple of things, and I got like some really very angry phone calls from the people that I'm involved with, and going, yeah, you need to take that down. I'm like, well, can I just change it? And they're like, no, too late, take it down. I'm like, no. So what it boils down to at this point is that if he had caught me at 2010, I would have been able to answer a lot of his questions to really do something with that. Right now, I have to double check everything against the people I'm locked down with before I can answer. I have to vet it against them, and they have to rewrite it and edit it and then send it back and say, this is what you're allowed to say. I'm like, fine.
It's the beauty of NDAs, isn't it?
but really, you guys are doing some amazing stuff, and I need to stress that. As much as I am critical about a lot of things, it's still, in a way, at the very least, it's a catalyst to push things forward, and I'm very happy to see that, even if it is, not a long-term sustainable way to do it. It's still a way to catalyze it and make, get everybody going, hey, we can do this. Hey, this is possible. We can just work on this better, or we can tweak this, or, maybe let's try a very, out of the box thinking. Maybe we can just and that's what it does. It gets people, gets the gears turning and, everything running. And that's what I like about it. Because, this may or may not be a long-term solution, but it gets it going in the short term to get people really working on it and really cranking on it.
Yeah, and I would say, in general, that's sorry, Mal. Can I go ahead?
Yeah, sure.
I think with Avicon, so Joyce and I and Kathy, the board of Avicon, I think that's really our goal. What you just said there, we recognize that both Second Life and Open Simulator and even some of the other technologies, Unity. And other platforms, none of these are yet the metaverse that we all dream of and that we all want to see. They all have their limitations, and I think we view Avicon's role as sort of pulling together the communities of people who share this passion and share this interest. And having these events, people used to ask all the time about the Second Life Community Convention. What's the purpose of bringing people together in real life, or what's the purpose of holding these virtual conferences? And really, it's about the networking. It's about building relationships with people and helping facilitate their own relationship building with even other people to bring together the people who are working on these technologies. Everybody's got their own passion or their own little niche, and it's when we come together and start talking about it and sharing that information that those wheels start turning, and you realize, oh wow, this thing this guy's doing actually can help improve my work. And that's what we hope to do is help be a catalyst for that kind of development work, and not just on the developer side, but also on the end user side. It's hilarious to me. You get working with some of these developers, and they never use the software that they develop on, or they don't realize, right? They don't realize all the ways that their software is being used. That's what happens when you put it out there in the wild. People start doing things that the developer never even intended somebody to do with it. But when they see all those different use cases, then I think that's when we start to see real improvements, not just to these platforms or the specific software, but also greater progress towards that metaverse that we all want to see.
I think Second Life, although it's a walled garden now, always has been arguably, is a proof example of that. They didn't know what on earth they were doing when they started. They just, when the users came in, that defined it. But
if you go by Hamlet's thought process on it, they started with as a video game idea, and I believe you guys are right. They didn't really didn't really see what it was going to be used for as a sandbox. They're like, oh, it's going to be a video game, and it had like gaming elements and everything in it and all this other stuff. And then everybody came in and went, well, we can use it for this and this and this, and it went out of control. And they went, oh, they can use it for business and do it for this and this and that. Completely agnostic kind of uses that they had never even saw or intended or whatnot. And then they kind of tried to jump on it a little bit for a while and tried to cater to it, but I don't think they quite understood it. And that's where I think right now they're pulling back into the video gaming mentality again.
I have a clip somewhere of the old, before it was called Second Life, it was just called Linden World. And I swear, you look at that clip, and I mean, apart from the fact the world is very primitive, it just looks like a bunch of griefers playing around, as we would call it.
Blowing stuff up and shooting.
Yeah, exactly.
They're actually going to have...
Probably is not far from the truth.
They were actually going to have, if I remember correctly, they were going to have like little virtual animals or something running around or whatever, and that was part of the plan. And I look back at that and I go, well, that, to me, it's like, well, if you did your homework back then, like creating it way back in the day, you would have known ahead of time that making an open sandbox virtual world would have led to something. All you had to do is look at the predecessors, and I don't think they did, and that was kind of what worried me at the time when I went from Active Worlds to there. I'm like, wait, you didn't look at your predecessors. There's a problem here. You're not going to see this coming. And
even if you look at something like Minecraft, people are doing stuff there that they just never expected people to do.
They right into the modding community on that too. I mean, like a lot of things, even Notch was, Notch a lot of times would be like, oh, you can't do that. That's not possible. A good example is adding shaders. Adding the amount of shaders that the modding community did. They're like, you can't even do that in there. And then like they come out and they're like, look, you have like rippled water and reflections and sunlight and God beams. Like, oh my God, what the hell did you guys do to this? This looks like a top notch.
Yeah, I was actually amazed because linking to OpenSim here, the Virtual World's Best Practices conference a couple of weeks ago, we filmed one session in Joycadic Grid, which of course is sometimes hypergrid enabled OpenSim. It's actually where my main hypergrid avatar is, and he's stuck there with his inventory at the moment. But Jo Kay did a wonderful session there where she actually, it was really all about Minecraft. She brought all these kids in, and they were actually talking on the panel about the various things they did. And, it was totally evident that it was a sort of creative world in itself. And the builds were actually becoming spectacular. When I first saw it, I just thought of Lego, but it's like pixels on the screen. The higher resolution you go, the more detail you can get. They may all be square bits of Lego, but you can really, when you build to scale, you can do some amazing things. And Chris Hart from Reaction Grid was there because her child is a total Minecraft addict, and it was fascinating to see, it's not comparable to what we do with prim mangling and stuff like that, but it's very, so obviously a very compelling environment for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Maybe it's more like Lego Mindstorms.
When you give people software like that and say, do whatever you want, they're going to do things you could never imagine.
Yeah.
That's the only way to plan for it, actually. I mean, that is your plan. If you're going to do a virtual, open-ended sandbox type of system, that is your plan. You don't sit down and say, this is what we're going to be intending it for. You leave it blank and just say, this is what it's a platform, it's agnostic. This is what you can do with the tools, but never try to define what you should be doing with the tools. Just wide open, say they're gonna impress the hell out of us. They're gonna be doing things we never saw coming, and all we have to do is keep up. We have to keep up and try to give them the best tools to do it with, but don't try to do anything else with it. Just let them do it, because you guys will. I mean, you guys do amazing stuff. I've seen it in Minecraft, I've seen it in Second Life, and all these other open-ended virtual environments, and I go, wow, you guys are just really creative. Like, just amazing stuff coming out of it that they never saw it coming. Because you see it and they go, oh wow, that's amazing, and you go, you didn't see that coming? I go, no. I'm like, you didn't see artwork or business or a thriving economy or community. You didn't see all that coming, right? And they're like, no. And I'm like, wow.
Well, you have to. I think you have to remember that in order to, I think, have that some degree of that kind of foresight requires that you have a workforce that is far more diverse in age, gender, and work experience than the typical dev shop has.
Amen.
Maybe.
When the dev shop is 90% male under the age of 35, you're going to get what you got in Second Life.
That's right. That's
if
a
you
very
if you extend
point.
if you extend it so that you've really got a gamut of people, of diverse people, then you listen to them, then you're far more likely to hear some of those ideas start kind of floating around in the atmosphere. But hey, a 25-year-old snot-nosed kid who's just graduated from college and is a gamer, hey, he isn't going to have a clue about what non-techie business may see this and say, hey, we could do da 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 with it.
That kind of makes me sad.
Wonk. Yeah,
that kind of makes me sad, considering, because I'm only 34 and I saw that, and I could have that insight, but it's not because I have the longevity on it. It's more like because I actually just looked back and said, well, what has it historically been used for? It was a critical thought. It's just a regular critical thinking skill. It was like, what has it been used for in the last 20, 30, 40 years? And I see the same patterns, and I go, well, that's why would this be any different? Whatever new platform's coming out, why would it be any different? And then I see large amounts of people going, but I can't. What it is I can't even give Linden Lab the benefit of the doubt on that one, because they had Randy Farmer consulting them. Randy Farmer is one, Chip Morningstar and Randy Farmer were the guys who did Lucasfilm's Habitat.
Oh gosh, that's good.
So they had Randy Farmer, consulting at one point, way in the beginning of what to kind of expect, bandwidth, what the do's and don'ts, community stuff like that. They have no excuse. I talked to Randy a number of years ago about it, and I asked him flat out what happened. I know his work, I know his recommendations, I know the type of stuff that came out of his work, and I said, what happened? And he goes, they just ignored me. I came in, did my spiel, and they went, no, that's nice, and they went and did their own thing, the exact opposite, and wondered why they ran into concurrency problems and they ran into crashing and sims and all. He told them from around day one. He was on board, telling them, going, "You're gonna have a problem with this, the scalability." And it was the same thing I repeated to him.
Why employ consultants if you ignore them? It's old story.
Not only just not even just hiring consultants, but Randy Farmer, for all intents and purposes, this is the guy. That's like telling Jaron Lanier he doesn't know what he's talking about. This is you want to just reach out and just smack the crap out of him. Go, no, you sit the hell down on your hands and you shut up and you listen to this guy.
I have to say that's one of the great things about the open simulator development community. To Tara's point, obviously being a woman in IT myself, I have to reiterate her point that diversity in not just your staff, but even recognizing the diversity of your user base is great. And it's really good to see that the open sim dev community is very diverse. Krista Lopez, who is the creator of the Hypergrid, obviously she's a woman. Melanie from Avination does a lot of coding. So I'm really pleased to see that our planning team is very gender diverse and very globally diverse. So we have folks from all over the place. And I think in terms of our keynote speakers for the conference, we do have a famous gray hair. Grady Booch is going to be one of the keynote speakers. And I think everybody's very excited to hear that. But we'll also have some panels. And I heard somebody mention Cynthia Colon. She's also going to be a keynote speaker. So she's really wonderful.
God. She is amazing. But I do agree with you guys that diversity is absolutely key. As long as you add in the critical thinking aspect of it and the ability to actually do their homework. But yeah, that's like the power team right there. As long as you got your diversity and all those key elements, you guys will do amazing things out of the box. It's great stuff.
Something tangential here, actually. I ran a series for a short while. I plan to do another series at some point called Crossworlds, and of course both Will and Fleep were guests on that at various points. But one of my guests on that show was a guy called Bruce Joy from Fast Park. I don't know whether you guys are familiar with Fast Park.
Oh yeah,
I know Bruce.
Yeah.
I know Bruce.
Yep.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's a great pal. He had, obviously Vast Park is not a public virtual world. It's simply, it's provisioning really for enterprise stuff and very focused on Australia. But He has actually launched. I think it was simply called the Open Avatar project. The principle of which is the assets of your avatar could be made portable on the web or worlds you actually went to. And there was some talk, I believe, at one point of a separate asset server that would function independently of an individual virtual world, where you could actually keep your assets. And I'm just wondering. I guess Michael's supposed to ask here: are there any moves on this front with the hypergrid to actually maintain asset servers and possibly?
Oh God, yeah, I want to know this answer too, because Bruce is actually on the IEEE Virtual World Standard Group with me.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
And we've actually this is a byproduct of conversations through the standard that we've been writing of how to do the assets and avatars, make them portable. So he's actually addressing that, and I would love to know how it would be addressed through OpenSim and hypergrid and all that other stuff. I'm way up there on the top. I want to know.
Yeah. I was trying to
Open
patch
Simulator. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
So no, I was just going to say I tried to put Bruce in touch with Krista at some point. I don't know whether they've actually talked yet, but he was fascinated to hear what she was doing. But Michael, yes, I mean, any moves in?
Well, I mean, Open Simulator right now is very Second Life protocol centric. I mean, most everything we do right now revolves around using the Open Simulator. I mean, the Second Life viewer to connect using the Second Life protocols, but there's no real limit on the back end to what Open Simulator could store in terms of assets. It's very open ended. It's basically just a modified HTTP server similar to like Apache or other, like Nginx or something like that. There's also another secondary project that OS Grid uses called SRAS, Simple Ruby Asset Server. It's written in Ruby. And it's quite powerful, actually. We're running it at OS Grid right now. We're actually in the process of converting to a new version. But it's not a real big project, but it's also very open-ended and could serve assets of almost any kind in just about any format.
Hey Neb, can I ask you a quick question, Neb?
Sure.
This is actually a technical question. On the back end, if you could, could you tie in something like a BrightNet to it to do a multi-use data and turn the caches into part of the distributed asset server for the users?
I don't see why not. We do some stuff like that with Nginx, where we cache assets, and I know people are using other cache like front ends to do stuff like that. So it's very open ended, and it's using pretty standard internet protocols. We're not doing anything really special, and neither is Linden Lab really. They're using some proprietary, I wouldn't say proprietary, but some odd formats like JPEG 2000 and...
Yeah, that's very disheartening that they're doing that.
Some strange mesh formats that they've kind of created on their own. So it's not like I know like they support Collada uploads here, but they don't store it as Collada. It's converted and compressed and contorted and vertices removed and it's really compressed. And there's good reasons for that because Collada is not a good streaming format. And there's not a lot of good streaming formats. Most of the video games you play nowadays, you're not streaming content from a server. It's installed from a DVD on your hard drive, and it takes up 8 gigabytes of hard drive. It's hard to stream content like that. So that's something unique that we're doing that some of the newer virtual worlds are starting to do now as well. But even if you look at Blue Mars, they didn't really do a good job of streaming content either. Mm-hmm. They were making you download these big.
They don't stream any content. They didn't stream it at all. They just made you download the whole world. That was what World's End did back in the early '90s. You had to download the whole world before you could step in.
Just like computer games on CDs and now DVDs.
That's more of a publish model than the actual streaming model.
And believe it or not, there's no real standard format out there for streaming 3D content. I mean, Collada's a good start, but Collada is XML, so it's just gigantic.
Yeah, it's not compressed XML, and it's hard.
I don't think I ever got an answer to this, but you just were gasped when somebody mentioned JPEG 2000 or whatever it was. Well, I talked to Philip Rosedale, it's a couple of years back now, and I was just casually talking, and we were back on images and things, and I brought up fractal compression of images, and Philip jumped and said, "Oh, I did that." And I, for the life of me, I couldn't actually quite understand why he didn't use a similar technique for texture.
Texture.
Texture generation in Second Life, because it
like procedural textures. Yeah, he should have used procedural textures. Yeah, you could have a 2 kilobyte file and got ultra high res streaming through your video card. Yeah. Textures on everything that don't repeat. I mean, you would never, if he had used the procedural texture systems, which just freeware ones. There's like open source ones you could have used, or proprietary ones from Algorithmic. Sebastian DeGuy is a friend of mine, and I was friends with him when he first started it, and some good stuff. I mean, you can take 2 kilobytes and turn it into a texture that would make the terrain texture here look like crayons. Construction paper. I mean, it's like, why wouldn't you do that? You got 2 kilobytes and have like near infinite grass, or a high resolution texture that never goes bad. I mean, in 10 years, you don't have to worry about 1024 textures wiping out your computer. I mean, I don't know why they made those decisions.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Second Life and OpenSim. My main complaint is you log in, the shapes form, although mesh can take a while, but waiting for the textures is just a killer, and they can be so compacted.
It's not to say that procedural textures aren't going to be. It's not to say that procedural textures will load instantly. They do have a preload on them. I mean, if you worked with them, they do have a preload to do the calculations. But once you get past a preload, or if you have a way to stream it. I don't know what other systems are, but I know Algorithmic streams it. So they do like a short preload session, but when it does a preload up front, then it starts streaming through in resolution. So the closer you get to something, the more it just ups the resolution. But it's only in certain small squares, so it works out that way. It streams it through it and doesn't have to load it all.
Yeah. Well, talking of Mr. Rosedale, founded Second Life, on another interview with Gentle Heron, in fact, a few months ago, many months ago now, but sometime in the last year, I think it was, we sort of pinned him down on the idea of the hypergrid and everything else like that, and he just said, well, you look at the volume of users, and it's just not worth our thinking about it. Now, of course, he's chairman of the board, but he's no longer CEO, so that was very much just his opinion, I think, at the time, because he'd left the CEO position at that time. But it occurs to me that well, not the end game by any manner of means, but an ultimate objective for OpenSim, especially with the hypergrid, is you put all these goods together and you develop beyond that Second Life base, so to speak. And you have the accumulation of people. Surely in the future there will be a point, or hopefully there'll be a point, where the open metaverse, the open sims, whatever, will actually be formidable enough to say, for somebody like Lyndon Laus to say, hang on a second, it wouldn't really take much for us to connect to a hypergrid here. We might have to modify our inventory and permissions and stuff like that, but there's a lot of people there. People want a hypergrid.
To be fair, too, the Linden Labs did early on in Open Simulator development. Linden Lab, believe it or not, was actually quite involved in our process. They were coming to our meetings.
Yeah, they definitely were.
We were doing stuff with IBM, and we were actually teleporting between the beta grid and Open Simulator grids, even into OS Grid at a certain point. But it kind of fell apart when Philip left and other things changed. And I think one of the lot of problems with Second Life is they chose to do security through obscurity, using things like JPEG 2000 and weird mesh formats. They kind of made it a little more difficult I think that their thinking was anyway, not that it's true, but their thinking was that using these weird formats would make it more difficult to replicate what they were doing. Someone couldn't just rebuild what they were doing, and ultimately that wasn't true. But I think like if you look at some of the things we're doing in Open Simulator now, I mean, we've definitely gone beyond what Second Life can do. We have our own scripting language of OSSL. You're able to go in and create your own customized modules that you can run things that you could just not do here in Second Life. It's just completely impossible. We have a lot of things with NPCs, and even if you look at NPCs, we were doing NPCs way before Second Life was. And I don't know if they went that route because of what we were doing, or if it was something they had planned in the cards all along. I don't know. I can't really say for sure, but if you look at that was something we were doing before they were doing. And we do it a lot differently. I think the way we do it is actually considerably better than some of the things they're doing here. So, I mean, Open Simulator is very open-ended. The code is there. I mean, that's one thing that's completely different about here. Anyone can just go in and make the code do whatever they want. Whether or not that will end up back in core, in the core code is something else completely. But the fact is, it's there, and we're always looking for more people to come and take the software, tear it apart. It's not perfect. It's far from perfect. It's getting better. There's a lot of problems with the Second Life protocols in general, with how their use of UDP, and just there's a lot of problems with it that just don't scale well, and that translates over into Open Simulator, like Will was saying with we seem to be stuck at 100 users. Well, a lot of that comes down to the viewer itself.
Oh yeah,
the viewer itself.
That's why I actually said earlier. If you can do a BrightNet backend to distribute that across the cache, share the caches across the users, you would probably transcend a hell of a lot more than SL can do. Because a lot of the load isn't the avatar movement, but you can do that with an area of interest network. But a lot of it is just everybody lining up to a server to grab the assets.
Yeah,
overloads it. So if you can distribute it, you'll be good.
Like Active Worlds, I believe Active Worlds is that DirectX or is it OpenGL? I don't know.
It's both actually at this point. They're DirectX, OpenGL. The way Active Worlds works is it was always mesh from the beginning. It was never had any prems, but the way it works is they have each world has a directory object path where you can put all your objects and you build with the objects that way. You pull it from there. However, I have done testing over there with distributed nodes, so I can take the object path and bounce it off of 200 or 300 servers and distribute it, worldwide, and take the load off. And that's how I actually handled the first. Actually, that's what I was talking earlier about. Yeah, that's how I was doing it with the concerts. I said we had about 100 people the first time. The second time we had about 200 people, and the reason that is because it was a stress test the first time. I got 100, didn't crash. Second time was about 200, and that was because I was running it off of a distributed peer-to-peer cache system. So that's why I'm kind of asking whether you guys can do that on Open side.
And if you can hold that thought and that question, Mel. Toss it back to Fleep.
Yes, I know. I was just trying to get a word in there. We'll come back to this if you guys hang around.
Yeah,
but I know Fleep has slightly limited time.
I need to get running soon too myself. So
right. Well, okay. Let me just ask one question very quickly. Actually, that is, what is the review process for people? The wonderful thing about OpenSim is lots of people are developing strands and code for it, but to get incorporated into the core code is the group of reviewers who decide what goes into the core code and what doesn't.
Generally, it's the core developers. I play a big part in doing a lot of the initial testing of new code. Generally, what we look for is people who are not, we don't have to pull their teeth to get them to be involved, first of all. I mean, we really look for people who are willing to be around and not disappear after they put their code up and, just kind of disappear into the background. But we're looking for people who are who are good with code, who know how to make good patches that will easily go into the code. Generally, what we ask you to do is file on our bug tracker. We ask people to put up their code there, and as long as it's not like a huge, thousands and thousands of lines of code. We ask them to supply patches in smaller batches initially.
Yeah.
And if that goes well, if they can get a bunch of patches up there that generally go into the core code without problems and don't cause new problems, and they seem to know what they're doing, we'll usually offer them after some time if they want to be in core. And then if that all goes well, then generally we just give them the keys and they can go start patching away and doing code on their own.
So that's great. I mean, at the end of the day, the more collaborators, this is another bonus for OpenSim. This collaboration system, you can move faster than an individual company can. So,
right.
Great news. Okay, let me pull back to, we'll come back to this in a while, I think, but I'm going to pull back to Fleep now because I'm actually, I know there's more OpenSim stuff for Fleep sellers, but also to start with, I'm very curious because there may be some news of what we call RL or organic sim events too. So let me hand back to Fleep, and I know you're in a hurry, so I'll just let you do the roundup, so to speak.
Sure. Well, about so people keep asking Joyce and I for the Avicon piece. We organized the Second Life Community Convention. Well, as volunteers, we were involved for many years. And when we decided things came to a point where we felt like our organization probably couldn't deliver the kind of experience that I think the new management of Linden Lab envisioned, and for many other reasons, I think our focus has always been the metaverse and the future of the metaverse. And after some time, we started to feel that focusing on just one platform as our main activity was something that we sort of wanted to move away from. And I don't mean to take away from like the Open Simulator Community Conference, like I was talking about before. Bringing together the developers and the end users of OpenSim serves a great purpose, and I'm really excited about it. But beyond even OpenSim, beyond Second Life, there's this broader, what I'm personally using, the word that keeps coming around is this immersive technology. What's happening with Google Glass, what's happening with Oculus Rift, what's happening with the Razer controllers, what's happening with Leap Motion and the Kinect. So it's this mix of virtual reality and augmented reality and gesture-based computing, advances in all of these different kinds of haptic devices, ties in with all the things that I think, I'm sure all of us sitting here, we're all interested in these things. So there's a broader sort of level above these platforms we're working in right now. And there's this space where I think we're all interested in having these conversations and learning more about how to tie these technologies together. And so I think Avicon is looking for our next real-life event, and we're just in the discussion phases right now, but tentatively we're thinking maybe by summer, fall next year. We would like to, of course, the people that came to Second Life Community Convention is in some ways the same target demographic. It's all of us who are passionate about virtual, augmented, immersive reality. And we felt like there was just enormous value. There must be, because people are still beating down our doors asking when is the next convention. So the answer is maybe next year, but it won't be Second Life focused. It may include Second Life, and we hope maybe Linden Lab will participate as a sponsor or something. But we want to take it a little step beyond even just Second Life and OpenSim and really look at all the technologies that we're all reading news stories and feeling very passionate about.
I think it's, I think, I describe one of my interests, as interfacing. Because, to me, what virtual environments, as I've known them for, 7 years now or something, it has changed the nature of my ability to interface with technology. It's a communications platform. It's all creative. It's everything. But the 3D aspect of it is a jump in interfacing. even though it's a niche use at the moment. But we are working in parallel with all these other interfacing tools. Tara was mentioning the glasses earlier, and we're frequently talking about Rift and Leap devices, because the way we interface with our computers or our mobile devices, or maybe the vapor in front of us at some point, is actually crucial. It's the timeline of changes to the way we interface with technology that is, going to be the deciding factor on which technologies, like Second Life or OpenSim survive. The ease of use, if we can use them on our pads, if we can see them in future on these glasses or whatever we're wearing, it's very important, because the popular culture, the greater mass of people will be the deciders in which interfacing technologies develop and which are put aside as too cumbersome or limited.
Absolutely.
And we have to consider our worlds and what we're doing with virtual environments within that context. So I think that's a very good avenue to take with a convention.
Yeah, I think in a general sense, I mean, with all the technologies, I feel there was a period of time where it felt like mobile, the iPhone and the Android, and the introduction of mobile devices sucked all the air out of the room. And that's all the media was talking about. That's all the press was talking about. And obviously, the Second Life hype cycle had already kind of crashed at that point. But I sort of feel like we're yes, indeed. Believe me, I was there for all of that. But now I'm starting to feel like, the Google Glass and Oculus Rift, although I agree with Tara that maybe that's a little overhyped. And it's really funny to watch these. Yeah.
Concerning you and Tara, I'm kind of down on the Oculus Rift because I think it's a repeat. However, that being said, Tara did bring up one piece of hardware that I do have a keen interest in, which is MetaView. So I'm keeping my eye on MetaView and less on Oculus Rift at this point.
Well, yeah, and I think that's what I'm saying. Or what I'm trying to say is I feel like there's a resurgence in the conversation about virtual reality and augmented reality and gesture-based computing, new input and haptic devices that will and do inform our virtual world experiences and will shape and change the way we interact with these environments and platforms that we're using. So that's sort of where that conversation seems to be heading in the mainstream. And certainly I feel like, my work at the University of Cincinnati in the research and development and playing with these technologies, the thing that made Second Life not tip was that it ultimately was not user-friendly enough for the masses. And I really feel like if virtual environments and all of the creativity and the power that we have seen and felt, those of us who did have the patience to learn it, that we know exists in these virtual worlds, that will become more accessible to the mainstream if they can interact with the environments in different ways. So that's certainly my hope, and I think that's where Avicon wants the conversation to go, and we want to invite all of the people who are not just passionate about Second Life or Open Simulator, but also passionate about these other technologies, and we think another real-world get-together is a good way to reaffirm our relationships and friendships. All the people that used to come to SLCC will hope they'll come to this as well. And before I run off, I just have to recap very quickly on OpenSim. So really, truly, Second Life folks, if you haven't looked at OpenSim in a while, I would encourage you to look again. The Open Simulator Conference, it's on September 7th and 8th, so it's a weekend. It runs from 7:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Second Life time to accommodate our European friends. So that means you can just, come and catch some keynotes in the mornings if that's all you have and still have your afternoon. You don't have to take your whole weekend if you don't want to. But if you stay for the whole thing, we have a lot of great keynote speakers, a lot of great sessions. I think the Intel DSG stuff will be really fun to play with. And then following the conference program, grids all over the metaverse are invited to host a social event. So Open Simulator grids from all over the place are signing up to host a social event. So if you're not sure where to go to check out cool things, we also, of course, have sponsors of the conference, and they all have Franco Grid as a sponsor, for example. So they have grids as well. You'll have lots of places to explore. So I hope you'll come. You just sign up. You can register on the website. It's conference.opensimulator.org. And for 2 days, we'll be talking really deep about OpenSim and meeting OpenSim peeps and having fun. So I hope you'll come.
Wonderful. Yes. Well,
great stuff. And Fleep, I'm really looking forward to hearing more as you flesh out the thoughts for an RL event next year. I think you've nailed an important coming together potential there, because I think the augmented reality plus the virtual reality bits have got to start coming together somehow. And who knows what shape that's going to take, but I think it's some pretty exciting discussions.
Yeah, and as I said, I think with Avicon, we feel like that's kind of our role. We try to bring together the developers and the users and the people that are passionate about these topics to start having those conversations. And I think if you're interested and you want more information, avicon.org is our website, and you can sign up to be on our mailing list. Or you can, of course, email us and let us know that you're interested in the real-life conference next year. We'll probably start the serious planning for that right after the OpenSim conference ends, so probably this fall. So if you think you're interested in helping, we are always looking for volunteers for that too.
Okay, I'm getting quite a lot of background noise from Fleep as well, but I do have one final question, because we mentioned this previously. I was saying how satisfactory the Alpha Singularity Viewer is. Didn't you tell me that to make life easier for people, especially who haven't been in OpenSim before, you were possibly going to have a dedicated browser they could download, Viewer? Or is that...
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
no, Neb could probably talk more about that, but
Okay,
one of the things that has come out of this conference that I also think is great is we've been working with the Singularity team, and we will have a pre-configured branded viewer for the conference that will be based on the Singularity alpha builds that are out right now. And I think it will make, for me, I'm one of those holdouts. Like, I was still using Imprudence. I would not give up Imprudence. You'd have to pry it out of my cold, dead Avatar hands. Because Avatar, Imprudence was so stable, and every other viewer I tried just crashed like crazy. And then Neb made me switch. And I'm glad that he did, because I would say Singularity's alpha build for me is as stable as Imprudence, and it has made my both Second Life and OpenSim experience much, much more pleasurable. So Neb can talk about the details.
Yeah.
But
I haven't tried it in Second Life yet. I'm still in Firestorm, but I downloaded Singularity, the regular edition, and I wasn't that much more impressed. But then when I downloaded that alpha, and Pet Love and I have been using it. Especially, it's just so much better. I mean, it's better than Second Life in some ways.
Yeah.
There's a few Second Life quirky things that that I'd like. That I think a good viewer, a good client for OpenSim is much needed, because things like copy SLIL to clipboard and lots of little Second Life legacy things could be just stripped out completely. And possibly new features built into the interface that are OpenSim specific.
Yeah.
But
there's actually one really cool feature that's in the Singularity Alpha now. It's really new. It's like the last few weeks. It's the ability to export your own standard prims like cubes and spheres and torus and stuff like that. Anything you've built with the old style prims, the ability to export that out as collada files now. We just started testing that. It's not 100% yet, but it's working, and it doesn't preserve textures yet, but it does preserve texture mapping, and it does preserve colors. So it's a neat little function that's in there now that not too many people know about. Probably the first time hearing about that.
I've missed that one. Okay, well, first things first, I know you're in a hurry, Fleep, so thanks very much for being here. It's been great to see you again, and we'll be seeing you more in the next few weeks as we lead up to this conference. So thanks very much for being here, and I'll let you get on, so to speak.
Thanks so much, Mel. It's really great being here.
Okay. Now, whilst we've been chatting, we've also been joined by our regular... Oh, she's a co-host, really, isn't it? We've been joined by Saffia Widdershins. Hi, Saffia.
Hello, Mal. Just checking my lips move as well for pet.
Indeed. You've done it enough that I
do.
think, yes, you've done it enough that I think we're fine there. I'd like you to admit, you know Will, of course,
I
Will
do
Burns, and sitting next to you, we have Micheal, who is one of the OpenSim developers for opensim.org. And sorry, I forget the other company you're in with, Micheal.
Averte, Averte, yeah, and also OS Grid. I'm also, I don't know if we didn't really mention that here, but I was the president of OS Grid for a long time. Someone else has taken over that role, but I'm still an administrator there, and I'm one of the few original founders still left.
Adam Frisbee, was Adam Frisbee part of that?
Adam was part of that, and he still kind of sort of is.
So I remember like way back in the day before OpenSim was really even around. I remember him doing the initial stuff on that, hanging around him and watching him explain to me how he was doing it. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. You're kind of reverse engineering it. All right then, man, go for it.
And Justin, of course, I think. Yeah. Okay, so Saffia obviously hasn't been here a little bit earlier. We've been talking, Saffia, about the Open Simulator Community and Developer Conference that's coming up at the beginning of September. And some great news here. We stress tested, didn't we, Micheal? We have 100 avatars on Sim. We have the new Singularity viewer that performs like something else. And hypergridding is just as easy as the teleporters away these days. So all wonderful developments there. You've actually been in OpenSim a few times, haven't you, for designing worlds and things?
Yes. Not for a while, actually, so it might be worth repaying going back. We did a show that covered 3 different grids, looking at actually 4 different grids. We looked at versions of the Titanic for the centenary of the sinking of the Titanic back in 2012. We did the one in Second Life. We also looked at ones in Inworlds, in Kitely, and in OpenSim. The ones in Kitely and OpenSim were actually the same. The people were using Kitely as a development grid, and then transferring what they did there to OpenSim. I was very impressed by the way they were able to use bots in OpenSim. I hadn't been expecting that at all.
I think they've been using a few of those in the stress test, haven't they, Mike? Oh, maybe he has popped away for a few minutes. Okay, I know Micheal has to run too. So one of the things I've been on a couple of visits in there recently, as I was saying earlier, stress testing for this conference, and they have a 4-sim sort of complex, which has got enough seats for 400 avatars, but they've been going in there and stress testing what it can cope with, and I'm very impressed. There's that landing area that we stress test. Fleet was busy rezzing seats all over the place, and we had in excess of 100 avatars on it, and nobody crashed. It was a bit laggy, as you might expect, but nobody crashed, and you keep thinking, well, this is better than Second Life. All of a sudden,
I must say, I did an involuntary 100 avatar stress test on the Second Life grid this year.
Oh.
And that was the auction at the end of Fantasy Fair. The prices kept rising and the avatars kept arriving, and I'm not sure by the end of it which was we were all more excited about, the fact there were actually 100 of us for the auction and the party afterwards, or the fact that they were raising huge amounts of money. That was quite interesting, because obviously activities were going on there, and I mean, I even managed to dance afterwards, which was pretty surprising.
Yeah.
Well, it might be worth pointing out, Mel, pointing out to everyone that actually there was 100 avatar stress tests done in 2008 in Second Life. at the Orange Sim. It was an event. It wasn't the last event at Orange that was artistic stuff, but they basically they set up a scene to endeavor to capture pictures, and you jumped on a pose and you stayed put, and I know that we did hit 100. And we didn't crash the sim, although people were having a very hard time staying in, and there were lots of great avatars. But I have a little video that a machinima that I did of that event.
Yes, interesting. A lot of tests over time.
Yeah.
Are you back, Michael?
Yes, sorry, we stepped away for a second.
Yeah, I saw your message in the back chat there. I gather you're anxious to get off too, so I thought...
I have to get running here soon.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Well, it's been absolutely great to hear all that, especially that, I hope our viewers aren't put off by the diversions into technical chat at a couple of points, but it's really fascinating, what's going on in the background there. And I wish you luck with all the last-minute coding and stuff that will happen
thank you.
I guess, the next 3 weeks. Anything else you'd like to pitch in with while you're here, or shall I let you float?
No, just another last-minute reminder about the load tests. If anybody's interested, that you can get the information from avicon.org. And if not, if you know how to get a hold of Fleep, she can also guide you in and get a hold of me or anything like that, and hopefully come back sometime in the future.
Yes,
talk with you guys again.
Love to see you again. It occurs to me I should probably try and get somebody like Bruce Joy we were mentioning earlier on here. He does come in Second Life now and again, but I've thought about bringing him in here, but could be having an interesting discussion on developments on that front. Okay, well, thanks very much for being here. I'll let you sneak off. Our wonderful camera woman, Pet, will no doubt move the camera around so that you don't appear to go out in a puff of smoke.
I think I'm going to slide up next to you if Pet can sort of.
Yes, or jump over between me and Will. And yes, we can.
I think study Tara and the cats for a minute, Pet. So if you can do that,
I think she is. So go
Michael,
for it.
So Michael takes off here. Do you want me to pop over in his seat and even this out, or are we all good here?
No, you can stay. You can stay where you were. You can stay where you were.
That works out.
Because Saffia is filled in. So.
Saffia,
bye, everyone.
Oh, come on, let's get Will to move over.
Bye, Mikey.
Will,
bye.
Can we get Will
Thanks,
to move
Mike.
over?
Great stuff.
I would like to have Will move over. Hi.
I've just moved over.
Thank you so much, Saffia. I was thinking of Will, too. If you don't mind. If you do, then no problem. Sorry to interrupt.
So we're all bunched together a bit. So we'll.
Where do you want me moved over?
Yeah, you can move by Tara, Will. I think that's the idea.
This is musical chairs.
Yeah, isn't this fun? Excuse the interruption, folks. We've now rearranged ourselves publicly. And over to you, Saffia. Yeah.
I was going to tell you where I've been and why I'm late.
Yes.
I've actually been at a performance of Romeo and Juliet, which was given to raise money for the Love Donna Flora campaign. It's a ballet that's been going on at the Basilica for several months now. They do a couple of performances a week. They've got 2 companies performing, and they're coming towards the end of their run. But it's a ballet performance by the Basilica Company of Romeo and Juliet, and they're using modern music, so it's kind of a 1930s scenario, and it's great fun. It's really nice to watch. You wear fairly posh studs and go along and enjoy, and it's very well done. And there's special machines where you can applaud. I was hitting them enthusiastically.
Yes, there's. We're talking real life here. Or we're talking
no.
You're talking the Inworld version. Okay, right. Sorry. Okay.
Which is why I'm recommending it to people.
Yeah, I don't know why. When you sent me the message, I thought you were going to a real life ballet.
Right. No.
Yeah, we did have a clip of that a few weeks ago. It was only a sort of abbreviated version of it, but yeah, it looked great. I love some of these dance and productions in Second Life because the. Well, it's not really dance, Romeo and Juliet, it's theatre, but I've got some dance clips coming up later, and it amazes me. We're all used to seeing films of machinima with, avatars dancing and wearing their animations and stuff, but looking at the choreography on some of these productions, there's a lot more to it, and it's really fascinating to watch. So what else is up with you happening in World and etc., Saffia? Black and Mirror you're busy with? I know that.
Black and Mirror I am very busy with, yes. We're moving into full production mode now. So we've got a team working on it, a team of about 20 people this time working on it. And I was quite shocked today. I counted up and I realised that the jobs I was doing last year on the production are now being shared among 6 different people.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
A little bit less weight on your shoulders, I would hope.
It's considerably less weight on my shoulders, thank heavens. So, yeah, I'm hoping I'll actually enjoy it rather more this year, because I won't be kind of spending 3 months racing from one job to the next and panicking that I've got left too much undone. Yeah. So other people can join in the general panic.
Well, that's a good team to have, 20 people or so. That's a sizable team.
Absolutely. We've got some great people working on it too, as well as me and Pet, of course. And the actors who we've got David Abbott writing it again. And we've got Lauren Tone doing the music. We've got Ember Farina and Judy Newell producing. So we've got Rim Veerwood making special animations, and Vista Animations are going to be supplying the sort of standard animations for characters. And we've got Tara Volitant back doing special effects, and PJ Trenton is going to come in and work on camera as well alongside Pet. So it's going to be extremely exciting, I think.
We've had Persia Bravin on here a few times, and of course she's PR for Vista. They're doing some wonderful motion capture stuff now. Yeah, so.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I have to confess, Mal, that Persia was my in to Vista. I had a chat with her about what we're doing, and she's been extremely supportive and very excited about Black and Mirror. So, as people are,
Yeah. Very good. You'll probably have to have Vista Animation splattered all over it. As sponsors. Fair enough. They're very good motion capture.
They're going to be in the credits. It's going to be good.
So, what else? What else going on in the second half?
Yesterday I was at the wrap-up party for Relay for Life.
Oh, yes. I got that on my list here. Yeah.
And that was great. They raised nearly $400,000 this year. I think the final US dollar figure was $393,000 US dollars, which of course gives them something to aim at next year to try and break the 400,000.
Yeah. Oh, of course. You have to have a target.
Absolutely, and I think they're probably aiming for the moon if they go for the 3 million mark. I don't think they're going to hit that next year, but just hitting 400,000 would be wonderful.
Would be great, yeah. Yeah, I had that in my diary and I didn't get there. Metaverse TV have had a 2-day it's still going on, 2-day music festival. That took over the diary, I think. Never mind. But no, that's great news. Dan Voyager posted some pictures of that and the map and everything else.
Yeah, it got very full. And it was great fun.
I can imagine.
What?
Yeah, I had a long chat with Sting afterwards. Yes. We're actually finishing off our new edition of Prim Perfect, which is going to be all about non-profits. So we're looking at Relay for Life. Obviously, this is a good time to talk about non-profits But we're also finding about some exciting projects that Virtual Ability are involved in, and we're looking at some of the smaller non-profits as well. So the whole issue is going to focus around non-profits.
Are you including some coverage of TechSoup?
Sorry, what?
TechSoup. TechSoup
is
the organization that sponsors the nonprofit commons, and and they have been in, and TechSoup has been in Second Life since 2006. And is a long-standing. I don't know if you know the background of that organization, but TechSoup formed in the Bay Area. It's a legacy of the dot-bomb era. Of the early 2001, 2002 in there, where there were a whole lot of techies who got laid off as dot-coms turned into dot-bombs, and they decided to form an organization to support technology issues in nonprofits. And it's a fabulous organization. In fact, I had known about them for some years before I ever came into Second Life. And was very interested in connecting with them when I came in, and they just had a single patch there was a sim of there was a kind of a collection of sims that included the Education Commons and some others, and they had just had a patch before they had their own sims.
Yeah, I know that the first one was donated by Anshi Chung for them. The actual non-profit commons, the original non-profit commons, and then they got non-profit commons Aloft, which is the second one, and we've got a feature on them, not on TechSoup as such, but on non-profit commons, which talks about.
We almost had Rhiannon Joyce Betancourt on today because she's a partner in Avacon. She didn't actually make it, but actually it's funny. Talking about non-profit commons was actually on my agenda as she made it. So
she's interviewed. She's interviewed in the magazine. So.
Yeah, she's good. She does a show every Friday, Inworld. We wanted to film it at one point, but it's all text, which isn't very useful for cameras. But very good stuff, and very diverse too. It amazes me how many non-profit things do just sort of seem to pop up in Second Life. You wouldn't know they're there half the time until they get the attention they need.
Well, it's very interesting. The other thing we're going to be looking at is, as well as sort of the big things like Relay for Life and the things that come around, things like non-profit commons and a couple of small independent ones. We're also going to have an article on the way that Second Life residents create spontaneous charities, sometimes for events like the Australian bushfires and the Japanese tsunami. I mean, people will then hold events to raise money that can be sent there. And there's also the ones where people actually get together to support people. Case in point, I was at this event. I was at this ballet that raised money for Love Donna Flora.
Yeah.
So that seems to be a very good Second Life phenomenon, that people, fundraise and spontaneously fundraise for people, friends who need it.
So when's that out? When's that issue going to be out?
Probably next weekend, I would think.
Oh, right. So very imminently. We will look forward to that. And of course, as always, it's available on the web as a flipbook PDF, and you can get it in World with lots of extras, and the whole gamut really. And
Inworld or out, the advertising pages and so forth are all click through, so you can see something you like and hop over and buy it straight away.
Mm-hmm. So, what else do we have going on in World? I'm hastening to add. I've actually got a few notes here. We have, of course, the new Mad P, and I've gone and forgotten the name of it again.
Isn't it a Room 32 one?
Yeah, it's a sort of sequel, but different. Apparently, they've been getting a lot of griefing this week. I'm not exactly
that's
sure
awful.
why. I'm in their group, and I have messages popping up all yesterday saying we're being griefed again. We're being griefed again. But
get those kids back in school.
Yeah. It really isn't the right time to do things. The summer holidays and the kids. Let's see, Linden Endowment of the Arts, NIN 9, the series kickoff party. You know anything about that? We've actually shown a few machinimas here. They've been trailers for this NIN 9 thing. It all looks very mysterious, but I don't know quite what the plot is and how it fits into the LEA. But seems to be getting quite a lot of coverage of that. No? Nobody know?
I don't. Have to get Honor back.
No.
Yes, indeed. Well, we were quite busy today with OpenSim. So, Binge and Purge, an installation by Christine Showmaker, who, of course, is Gracie Kendall. That's his opening. And several blogs this week. I'm just going by pictures here. I haven't heard of it, but a sim called Bitcora, Bitacora, Bitcora Land. Seems to be getting a lot of attention as a destination. Very picturesque from what I've seen of it. Okay, everybody just goes here because I'm reading the blogs and nobody's visited them. There was well, fair enough. You know, we can't be. Second Life is a very big place. We can't be everywhere at the same time.
And I'm going to be an extremely boring person for the next couple of months because when you say to me, "What have you been up to, Saffia?" I'll be going, "Well, Black and Mirror."
Indeed. SLinquirer.com. They are one of the newspapers that reports fairly frequently from Second Life. They have more articles these days than do. They had an interesting piece in the week, which was touring educational museums in Second Life. Again, a more serious activity. That you can get into if you want. People do actually build museums with real artifacts or virtual replicas of real artifacts in here. And it can be quite enlightening. You can. Museums are all to do with history, and there are some things in history we can't see anymore, let alone walk around them in the real world. But as replicas in Second Life, we can do just that. Walk around. Recreations. Right.
Yes, I actually went the other week and saw somewhere I'd always wanted to see in real life and never have. But there is a virtual Jordan now, and you can actually walk through to the treasure house of Petra, and you can do that walk through the cavern and come upon the house, the great building at the end, the Red Rose City, half as old as time. That was lovely. I was so thrilled to do that. Honor found it and told me all about it.
Yeah, I heard that mentioned. I must. Is it just called Jordan, or is there a particular sim name? Or
I think it's called Virtual Jordan.
Virtual Jordan. Okay, we'll check that one out. Now, actually, after this, after we round up this show, I've got quite a lot of clips lined up, as it were. There's an island called Water Consciousness Wellspring Island, which we'll be showing a clip of later, all about water awareness, which I thought was rather fascinating. And let me just, if I sound a bit vacant here, it's because I'm scrolling down the list, seeing what's coming up. There is actually a build that everybody has been raving about this week. Apparently it's an old build that used to be in Second Life for a long while and has just come back. It's not Mechanical Circus, which is another one I've got listed here as a good destination. Very, if you like steampunk, I don't think it's really steampunk, but if you like contraptions, Mechanical Circus is definitely a place to visit. We got some clips of that coming up, but it's some fascinating constructions there. Okay. Oh, the also at LEA, the MOSP, which is this sim where you can actually go to film machinima. They basically, it's a collection of sets you can use for backgrounds and filming machinima. And there've been a lot of updates there this week, apparently. More MOSP for you to play with, is what the headline says. And I wish I could find the name. It doesn't.
It's not.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not my long lost favourite Arcana Nova, is it?
Ooh, it could be. Have they just reopened? That may be the.
Don't think so.
Okay.
I would adore it if they had, because it was the most beautiful house in Second Life.
No, this just looked like a very. It was just a very exciting looking sim, and most of what I saw of it was landscape. So, hunts. There's a mental awareness hunt on. Do you know about that?
No, I didn't.
Right.
Rosamund may.
I will click on the link here to see if I can give us some more information. That's quite interesting. I've got my list here, you see, but I haven't got the actual links open, which isn't very helpful. And I got so involved in our discussion earlier, I forgot to prepare.
Well, on the fashionista end of things, there's the Collaborate, which is 88. It has a new round of items on exhibit, and you can't get into the sim because it's maxing out. And also on the nearly maxing out is the opening of another fashionista thing called the Black Fair, which I first thought was this African American, and no, it's the theme is black and shades of gray. Although it appears that the exhibitors are not limited to items that are in black and white, based on what little I could get res before I gave up, because the sim was so packed nothing would res. But it's called Black Bear, and that's not the name of the sim, but I can look that up, I think.
Well, I have now found the name of this thing that is exciting everybody. It's described as one of the great masterpieces of virtual artists who return for a temporary exhibition installation at LEA 20 and is not to be missed. It's called Bogon Flux. Bogon.
Oh, yes.
I thought you'd know of this.
Yes, you know who's behind it.
Lotto Epsilon and Cutia Benelli.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cutia is one of my favourite designers. She does Grimm Brothers.
Right.
You know, all the really weird stuff. Cutia is just the most wonderfully individual designer.
The pictures look astounding, so it's definitely got to be on my list. Here we are. I also have Homeless Awareness Hunt. It's from August the 15th to September 15th, sponsored by American Bazaar and a host of others. And let me see if I can find any more information. I'll read out an address at Blogspot where you can find out more about this and follow links. I think it's sabyblogspot.co.uk, and the post is a couple of days old, called Mental Awareness Hunt, which is a hunt in a good cause. So we should.
Yeah, sounds like a good one.
Yeah, and since I like hunting, might as well hunt for a good cause than a frivolous cause. Right. So, anything else new you can think of? Are you still with us, Will? Anything happening coming week or past week you can think of?
Let's see. The only thing I can talk about at this point is Eureka. We've made a couple of changes to the system by request. The kiosks are now customizable while keeping the branding, so you can actually throw your own graphics or whatever to blend with your environment. We've also added the token system, which allows you to unlock the gifts via tokens, and you earn tokens by exploring and all that other stuff. Easy peasy. Let's see. Other than that, we are moving the initial development back to a back-end server for web prims to make it more powerful, so we can make it more customizable and dynamic. So we're making some leaps and bounds here. It's about the gist.
When you said web prims, does that mean the prims coming from your own web server?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the same. It'll be the same web server that's running the actual algorithm in the database for the actual service itself, but it's running it as the cards. When you expand the actual HUD, it has a certain limited space that you can put in there.
Yeah.
And that limited space is going to be a web prim, so we can actually make it dynamic content and make changes across the board without having to make everybody update it constantly. So we can do our groups, we can do our categories and stuff like that, and make changes to make it more powerful or make corrections without making everybody update it.
Right, which is very useful. I hate it when heads-up displays and things have to update, because you got to take them off. You probably got to re-res an updater and then run the updater, then load your old one into the new one. Oh, what a palaver!
What we'll be able to do, what we'll also be able to do too, is also do push up, not push updates, but push information to it. So like if you can do, we're looking over an achievement system at this point. So if you do certain things in your explorations, like for instance, if you rate like 250 adult rated Sims or something, it'll pop up and say, less is more achievement. Stuff like that. We'll do like little achievements on that one too. We're looking into the token system, and we're making coins at this point that venue owners can put out and hide anywhere they want, and people can go and search for them and collect them, and then you can go back to the kiosks and collect their gifts via certain tokens. So you can say like, it'll cost like 5 or 10 tokens to get your gift, but it gives a little bit more incentive to go hunting. So it's kind of like a hunt, but it doesn't have specific things involved. It's kind of like a grid-wide nonstop hunt, but we just tie it to tokens. So you can spend your tokens and earn them different ways. So if you're exploring, like I think the way we explained it, or the way we wrote it out was every 100 jumps you get a token. Every 25 ratings you get a token. So you can get maximum of 5 tokens per 100 jumps or something. Plus, if you go and look for those coins, those tokens, and they're coming in 1, 5, and 10 increments, worthwhile. If you find those tokens and collect them across the grid, if venue owners put them out, then you can earn a lot of tokens and go get a bunch of gifts. We also have another one. We have one other item that we're working on too, which is a treasure chest, which is I think the way we wrote it out was that it'll cost 100 tokens to open the chest, to unlock it, but you can get anywhere between 50 and 10,000 tokens. It's kind of like a lottery thing with tokens. So you can either you do it like once every 24 hours.
You're not going to build a virtual Bitcoin, are you?
No. The tokens. The only thing that tokens are really good for is for getting the gifts out of the kiosks. So when you're like running around and you go to different venues, you know how everybody has like freebies out, right? Yeah. That's what the kiosks are for, except you can put a little bit higher end freebies, like a reward for showing up through the kiosk. So you can get like whatever they load the kiosk with is up to them. But we would suggest a better quality than a freebie, something that they already have on sale. If you have a location or something, we would suggest something like an outfit that you have for sale already. So you can either trade your tokens as a reward, or you can just go in there and buy it yourself for a couple of hundred lindens or whatever it is, and do it that way. So we're kind of adding a little. We're at the level now where we're doing the back end for the server end of it. So it's a web prim, and we can actually make everything nice and more powerful. But also we're adding the gamification elements to it to make it more of not entirely gamified, but it's more like it's a little bit more interesting, something like a side quest, because we have a gift mode version on the HUD. You can set on normal, safe mode, and gift mode. And gift mode is for people who just want to run around and collect tokens and get gifts. So people who are interested in hunts type of thing. Yeah. So that's what that's for. It'll only bring you to places that specifically have a gift on their HUD, on their kiosk to unlock. So it covers all 3 bases right there.
Great. Bring a bit of the hunt flavour to destinations. Okay.
Trying to.
Okay. Anything else, Saffia, from you? I think we can call it a sort of wrap in a minute.
I think that's it for me.
That's it for now. I'm back in my brains to think if there's anything else that I haven't got written down here on my list, but I think that's about it. Let me hand over to Tara for her roundup. Then over to you, Tara.
Well, I think I already did what few items I had left, other than we're definitely into what they refer to as the dog days of summer, when even more people are taking time off in the last month before the world sort of resumes normal functioning again. So I suspect there'll be some, we'll find news a little sparse for another week or two, and then everybody will be back at work, and oh my goodness, there's just all kinds of things to talk about. So
yeah, as usual. Well, I apologise to viewers who are watching this who think we're doing too much humming and ahhing to end the show, but usually we talk for hours. Well, we have done actually, but we seem to have finally run out of things to discuss this week. So
news week, man. It's just a slow news week.
Yeah, it's a slow news week, so we're just being slow commentators, sort of. Anyway, I'd like to thank Will Burns for joining us. Thank you, Will. We will no doubt see you again soon. And
I'll try to be here as much as possible.
Yeah. And thank you, Saffia, for making it the last minute and bringing us up to date. And we look forward to being perfect in about a week's time. So thanks for making it.
Well, my pleasure to be here.
Right. And, of course, thank you to my co-host, Tara, sitting next to me here.
Oh, you're most welcome.
Yes. So, and the solitary pussycat we have here today, Larky. We always have a pussycat here, so we've got one.
Yeah, well, Hieronymus is still here too, so.
Oh, I haven't zoomed out. Is that the monster? Has it grown?
That's the megapus, yes.
Yeah, has it grown bigger than the sim yet? Oh, not quite. Oh, what kind of contortion is that? He asked. Never mind. Okay, it's a wrap. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the show. Really fascinating one, I thought, talking about OpenSim and everything. As they told you, if you fancy checking out the Hypergrid and everything else, register for this conference or just go to EarthGrid or somewhere and get yourself an avatar and experiment. It's a whole new world out there, as well as Second Life. So we'll be back same time, same place next week. And we're going to go out with various clips. The first clip I'm actually going to run is actually the water consciousness wellspring that I mentioned a few minutes ago. And then we've got an episode of the Carter Dahl Show. And, I will say this. She's still in the channel, I think. Animator Kathy, with an 8 in it. Published a interesting clip this week, Chromatic Diaries, and we're going to be showing that in a few minutes too. So well done, Kathy, if she hasn't logged out already. But anyway, it's on with the clips for the next couple of hours, and we'll see you again next week. So here we go.